be like, actually.
I wasn't in the hot seat.
Uh-huh.
But you are now.
Okay.
Pressure's on.
Solved my restream chat problem.
What was your restream chat problem?
Well, I use like the Windows up, down, left, right arrow keys to like resize my windows and lock them to the right and lock them to the left. It's a really cool Microsoft Windows feature. I don't know if Mac has it. And restream chat for some reason wasn't obeying it. It was keep opening in the full window.
I like that you just said obey.
Yes. So now I figured it out. I have to manually click and I have to manually drag it over. It's not paying attention to my commands.
All of the software should obey us more.
Yes,
Okay.
right? Actually,
it's doing its own thing.
I think OBS should be OBS.
Let's ask
It's us against
Andris.
the machines, guys.
Sorry?
I said it's us against the machines.
At the moment, it is. I actually, a while ago, I remember, I think it was about 5 or 10 years ago.
Andris has the link, by the way, right?
Yeah, Maggie included the link. She sent it to him.
I said to come on at 11:05. I just felt like that would be good either way.
Okay.
Gotcha. Too much pre-show is too much pre-show. No, but I think it was 10 years ago I had this first realization. And I was looking around, I was looking at the team, I was looking at what we were doing, and I realized our entire lives are all about copying and pasting.
That's true.
There might be a little bit of interpretation in between, but what we basically do is we take a request for something and we paste it over here and give it to somebody else. We take it this and we paste it over there and we give it to somebody else. We take it this, like everything is just copying and pasting. We do so much copying and pasting.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's account management.
account management is copying and pasting. Exactly. And I was like, geez, if these machines, our systems could only be smarter and they could sort of start to figure it out. And they're working on it, right? They're actually trying to figure out, like what right now from a chat perspective, you notice that LinkedIn and all the different chat platforms are all including what is the reply going to be? So I can just say, yeah, that's cool. Yes, no, all that type of. So they're trying to learn what it is that we actually want to say. So the bots can help us out and they will listen to our commands. They'll actually know what our commands are before we have to issue them. Yeah.
It'll be inside our heads.
It will be. It will be soon.
I mean, wait, you guys aren't already chipped?
No, we're not chipped. Not yet.
I dug mine out.
Yeah. All right. How much do we got? Just about 6 minutes to go. Hey, listen. I solved the climate problem.
Oh, wow.
Just fixed?
Your free time.
Yeah. I also realized that I caused the climate problem.
Oh.
Okay. So take a look at this. I just got this letter from TELUS saying, your TELUS business account is now paperless. Starting June 20th, you're going to not get your stuff in the mail. This is what we used to get from them. So this is our October 2018 bill. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to read this so that you understand quite the context here. This is for our 1-877, like our 1-800 number, our toll-free number. So the credit balance forward was negative $13.17. Right, so we had overpaid them a little bit. New charges, long distance charges, were 3 cents.
Yes.
So the balance was now negative $13.14. I don't know if you can see this, but on the top right, it says page 1 of 11.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this is what happened 15 years ago, I think, something like that. coinciding a lot when the climate was doing this thing, right?
Mm.
I decided to get a toll-free number. This is actually probably 20 years ago. And I called TELUS, I went around, I shopped around, and I found the best deal ever, right? There was no monthly minimum fee. It was, a low percentage, like point something cents per call or per minute, all of that type of stuff. And it was just really good. It had IVR capabilities. It had just amazing, amazing capabilities. And so I signed up for it. And the thing is, though, what it was TELUS's enterprise solution. They had decided they wanted to break into the small business world, I guess, and they started selling them to small businesses that could do it. And there was no minimums on this package. But it was designed for like a huge call center.
Oh.
And so they would give me pages and like 11 pages of reporting telling me how I spent 3 cents. And this would happen monthly. And I would feel really often awful inside. So we ended up, the reason why I only have this one, I would have to dig through our files because we actually kept them. I had like binders full of TELUS bills because this doesn't make sense for like they're completely built for an enterprise call center, and that would have made sense. Maybe the report would have been longer, but this was the minimum level of reporting that they could give for a 3 cent a month contract.
So how did you go down this rabbit hole? What brought you there?
Guys, we've been going down a lot of rabbit holes.
In terms of the discussion today, or in terms of getting this account?
What made you go back and open your bill binders?
Oh, no, because I got this letter. This is why I've solved the climate problem. So that caused the climate problem, but I solved it because starting June 2020, TELUS Business will no longer send you paper bills. Done. We don't need the climate accords.
Andris, we've got great news. We solved it.
Boom. Andris, how are you doing? You're doing the mime thing. There you go. I see movement.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
You can. Okay.
Yep. You're loud and clear for me.
Okay.
How's he for
Should
you?
be all good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you got 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Okay. Very cool. 1 minute, 30 seconds. By the way, the polls are in. A poll of one person. Kill the Guru is thumbs down. Doesn't like it. It's like, it feels a little bit too like you're trying to pull me in and all this kind of stuff. It feels almost maybe a bit too gimmicky. So one person has given me that feedback. That's how big the poll thing is. Andris, though, you've actually given me feedback on Kill the Guru in the past, and you are an expert brand namer. So you give me your opinion.
So we're talking about the name.
The name Kill the Guru.
I think it's a great name. Why? I mean, it's very different. It attracts attention. It's a little offbeat, which I think fits your brand. What's not to like? I mean, it communicates a lot of information. You're trying not to get into the usual blah, blah, blah stuff. You don't want to hear a bunch of gobbledygook. You want to hear something new and fresh.
Oh, right.
Kill the Guru. Come on. I'm sorry I didn't come up with it.
Yes. Okay. So now, if we're going to go by polling numbers, that means one person says yes, one person says no. But Andris, you are worth like 100 to 1. Sorry. I'm just saying. Anyways, it's always, that's the interesting thing about this world. I think the motto is you can't please everybody, and it's often thought of as a kind of a negative. But I don't think it's a negative. I think it's like, no. That's true.
The motto should be, you shouldn't try to please everybody. That's what it should be.
There you go. Love it. We were already dropping the awesome stuff before we even start the show. This is how good the pre-show is. Everybody should be part of the pre-show. All right. Now, Geez, we're gone past 11. Oh no, we're not past 11:11 yet. Let me, Arthur.
Got
let
it.
me- Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Read your mind.
Yeah. All right. Good for you. Okay. We are starting now because we're starting now. Hold on. Jeez. Here we go.
Guys, looking for your sunglasses?
COVID Marketing with Brent Kobayashi and Arthur Tutt. The show to support small business not just to survive, but to thrive.
That's right. We are live with COVID Marketing episode number 51. Week daily at 11 Eastern Standard Time. If you have questions on marketing and business or whatever, let us know in the comments wherever you find folk are seeing this. I am Brent Kobayashi, president of Kobayashi Zeitguys, a marketing agency here in Toronto, Canada. With me is Mr. Arthur Tutt, marketing specialist at the KZ. Listen, you're watching this. This is amazing. Andris Pone is on with us today. He is a brand expert. I've known him for quite some time. We'll call him a guru today because today is not the day we're going to be killing the guru. So I want you, if you're watching this, I know you're going to get value from this. I know you've gotten value from this in the past because you're returning, lots of you. Tag a friend that you think might find this interesting. Share it. Start a watch party on Facebook if that's where you're watching this. And let's spread the word on how we're going to not just survive, but to thrive. Andris,
Right.
welcome back.
Arthur.
Morning.
All right.
Thank you.
So
Good to be here.
we're going to continue the conversation about pivoting during this pandemic and beyond. We covered some great stuff last week. You were on the show, what makes a good pivot, when to pivot. And we shared some examples about what that is. If you're interested, we'll link up the episode for you. You can check it out. And today we're going to continue the conversation with more context around pivots in your business and brand. So,
All right.
Andris,
Beautiful.
you brought up a point last week that if you're going to pivot, you need a real strong brand foundation, or at least you need to know and be solid in your brand foundation. So can you tell us about that? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, pivoting does not mean completely throwing out everything. It doesn't, in my view, it doesn't mean transformational change. It means, again, using that analogy from basketball, you've got one foot on the court that you can't move, but you can move the other foot and you can look around. That's what you're doing with a pivot. So, I would ask people to visualize that foot as their brand. The brand remains constant, but the way that you apply it, as you're looking around, can be different. Why do you want to keep the same brand fundamentally? Well, it's so much harder. It's a lot easier than having to completely recreate everything that you mean, everything you stand for, everything you mean, your entire culture, all that kind of stuff, which is all composes what a brand is. And you'll have a lot more credibility out there if you are coming from a place of strength, coming from your current brand. People will recognize that you are extending it, changing it, adjusting it, pivoting it, and you'll have a lot more credibility in their eyes. So that's the reason you want to maintain a consistent brand and then, stick with your brand. But, we're adjusting. We're pivoting. I'll just use that word again. So
If I would go even deeper into that a little bit, one of the things that I think some businesses don't realize is brand equals asset. It's an actual asset. In fact, I'd even say it's possibly a more important asset in many cases, maybe all the cases it should be, than your computer equipment that you have, or your client list, which is related to your brand, or machinery that you have. Like, it's an actual tangible asset. When it goes into the balance sheet, they call it the goodwill. But it is something that if you are abandoning it, you're literally abandoning an asset that you may not think because it doesn't feel quite so tangible.
Well, a brand is defined as, I define it as what people think of you. A brand is what people think of you. It's what you think of you. It's what others think of you. So what is more important than what people think of you, including yourself? So, exactly. There you go. So having a brand foundation is a matter of, well, what are the elements of a brand foundation? There's a number that you could go with. You know, in my book.
Yes.
There it is.
Get the book, read the book. It's an awesome book.
The plug for the book.
In my book on personal branding, I lay out a 4-element brand foundation exercise that people can go through. Number one is coming up with your core purpose statement, why you do what you do, because people are very interested in that, and it's rich ground for differentiation. Number two is coming up with your position. So exactly how are you different? And I would encourage people to articulate that position as a tagline, something catchy, you know, what's your just do it, that sort of thing. Then you've got character traits, which are how do you act? You know, IKEA advertises, communicates with humor. Mercedes-Benz, not so much. That comes from different views, you know, how they view their brand character. And then finally, the reasons to believe. That's the 4th element. What are the reasons that we should believe that you are all of those other things? You know, we believe that Perrier is sophisticated because it comes from France. We believe, you know, if it came from New Jersey, we wouldn't feel quite the same way about it. So what are the reasons to believe in the stuff that you're claiming? That's the process of going through a brand foundation, and you can back that up. You could start that process actually with what we would call a think audit. So I said that a brand is what people think of you. Well, what do they think? Interview some of your clients. In fact, have a third party interview some of your clients, because your clients are not going to be honest with you. No matter what they might say, they're a lot more likely to be honest with the third party.
What are some good questions to interview?
Like,
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Are they different? Are they different from competitors? If so, how? And then you get some feedback on that. And at the end of that question, you could ask, all right, you know, the holy grail in branding is to be associated with one word. Like when we think of Volvo, we think of safety. Well, can you sum up this brand in one word? Other questions would be around strengths and weaknesses, that sort of thing. The position question about what is your difference? I view that as the most important question. So find out what people think and then plug that into your brand foundation process. Now you're coming from a place where you actually know what your brand is. Because guess what? You don't even own your brand. The people thinking about you do. You might own your logo and your website and stuff, but it's everyone else thinking about you that actually own it. So you want to know what they think, including your own staff. Talk to people outside the company, inside the company. Yep.
And so, I mean, one of the things I think as a small business person, quite often we feel like if I suddenly decide to be whatever it is, fun, like IKEA, or serious, like Mercedes or something like that, that means I'm not going to be able to get this kind of clientele, or I won't be able to do these things. Like people who have, I think, especially on the small business, because become very opportunistic, because like I need to pay my bills next month. There's a fear, I actually think, in actually starting to articulate the brand or the brand that you would like to go to, because you feel like that's going to alienate client. You can actually possibly even look at your clientele and say, that person would never buy from me if I were that bold with my brand. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't want to sound too cavalier, but I'll say this anyway. The point is to alienate some people. So if you're not alienating somebody, then you're just milquetoast, and you know, how passionate can anybody be? You know, in my, I won't pick up my book again. In the book, I talk about my favorite band, Rush. You know, I've seen them 21 times, and they had an enormously successful career, and yet are totally outside the mainstream. You know, the critics never really liked them. How many people can name a few of their songs? And yet 40 million records sold, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Walk on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, all that kind of stuff. How do they do that? They did that by playing the music that they wanted to play and appealing to the audience, the niche audience that bought every frickin' record. So, you know, if you're a restaurant, would you rather have 1,000 people buying, you know, one meal a year, or would you rather have, you know, 250 people buying 4 meals a year, or 5 or 6? I would go for the narrower audience. It's again, I don't want to be flip, but I'll also say that at the margins, you can really upset people and turn them off and do dumb things. Yeah, at the extremes. But I'm not suggesting that you go do something so extreme it's going to be offensive. But you do want,
unless you really want to double down on that. There are some brands that do that.
Fine.
But that's,
and
they know that's very intentional. Yeah.
all you have to do is look at the political sphere, which is the most vivid example you could ever find. There are politicians, as we very well know, whose entire game is to alienate 50%, slightly less, hopefully, of the population. That's it.
Yeah. So I'd actually say now, let's put, I think I want to put context around that from a business perspective. If you're not investing in brand where it might alienate some people, then you're serving a wide market. Then you're probably similar to a wide market. And then that means that your game and what you're doing is far more operational. So stop complaining if your margins are going down, and understanding that you're playing a margin game of operations, of making it more efficient in your operations, all that type of stuff. And that's a perfectly fine business to play. It's just that understand that's the business you're playing, and you're not going to brand to widen your margins, narrow your audience, attract an audience, make it easier for your sales. Like, in other words, you have to have a really good operations vehicle. That's okay, but recognize that that's what you're doing. I think be intentional that that's how you like to play your game, that that's what you actually maybe even enjoy, and then let it go at that. Because otherwise, and this is, I think, again, I keep going back to small businesses, because we hear all these sorts of different things about what you should and shouldn't do and all that type of thing. If you're a small business and you're really saying, how do I solve this problem? Might be margin based, like a small margin based business, and my business is being commoditized and all that stuff. Brand is actually the solution. And understanding your brand and differentiating yourself is, I think, actually the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course,
and it's enjoyable.
That too. We're having this conversation in the context of the pandemic, and who's dying out there. You can look in the paper online every day, and it's the organizations that have thin margins.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just add to that, one of the very first lessons I learned in branding 20 years ago from a course I took at U of T with a really a professor I respect to this day, is that basically the point of branding is to be able to charge more money than you would otherwise be able to. And again, I talk about that in the book, and people get a laugh out of it and stuff like that. That is one way to look at it. That is literally one way to look at it. That the point is to be able to charge more.
Right, to distinguish yourself from just another commodity.
Exactly.
I am going to actually now share my screen, because you actually sent us something that I thought was just so fantastic.
That was from my mom. We're gonna give my mother credit.
I love it. I love it. She knows what you're into quite clearly. Into brand. Okay, I'm going to share this, and there we go.
If you're like me and wear glasses, having to wear a face mask while being very socially responsible is quite annoying, because my glasses are fogging up all the time. Also, you can't tell if people are laughing at each other's jokes. So, in preparation of the de-escalation and the pubs reopening, we have invented the Barmaster 2000. I've now connected it to my smartwatch by the Bluetooth. So when I want to drink...
Isn't that great? Thank you.
The Barmaster 2000 automatically opens.
He's killing himself.
I'll show you again.
I love this so much.
He can barely get through it.
You can hear the cars going in the background, and everything.
Drink responsibly during lockdown.
Yeah.
Well, let's look forward to the pubs reopening.
Yeah. Wow.
I just hope he started a patent on that product. I don't know if it's patentable or not, but it's genius. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So, I mean, you sent this to me as a pivot idea. Yeah. Tell me what you're thinking here. I had some thoughts myself, but what went through your mind as you looked at this?
Yeah, well, this is the kind of creative thinking that is required, and we've seen a lot of creative thinking coming out of the pandemic. And let's say for example, you're a bar, you're a restaurant. That kind of technology, that kind of innovation. I mean, that could actually have a legitimate practical application. So whether or not you're the ones that are inventing it, maybe you could be the ones that are reviewing it. Maybe you should be doing your own brainstorming on how can we have, make our environment safer for people, because that's the number one issue. Bars are in a lot of trouble
Mm-hmm.
For a long time. I'm not sure how it's going to work. The future might actually look like that. Everyone, you get a helmet when you walk in. Seriously.
Well, I mean, I look at that and I'm thinking, this is so good, because not only is it a great, this, I could see them, and I don't know where this came. Maybe they weren't thinking pivoting or anything else like that. But if you're brainstorming about what we can do here, you're going to come up with stuff like that where you might think, yeah, but we're not going to get into PPE, Bluetooth, whatever type stuff. And maybe that was just like a gimmick and they had a string in the back or something. Who knows? But when you're going through this process, you're getting great creative ideas that maybe can move into your advertising campaign, into your content that you're sending out. And quite frankly, if they aren't sitting there creating a bunch of those helmets and having an event where people actually do that and they give it out, it doesn't have to be something that becomes their business a year from now or anything else like that. It's just the thought process of what's possible has so much fertile ground to turn into something valuable, even if it doesn't end up being your business pivot. Just love it so much.
Most definitely. With you, 100%.
Yeah. So now, last week we talked about some good pandemic pivots, right? And so I'm actually curious, what are some of the great all-time pivots you've seen?
Well, I was recently given another book here by a client of mine. That tells you what an incredible guy he is. He's my client, and he sends me a book. And it's The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And I'm, people are talking about it. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And, right there in the first or second chapter, he's talking about how Victorinox, the Swiss Army knife people are playing an infinite game. So before 9/11, 80% of their revenue was from those little Swiss Army knives. I know, I've lost 2 of them at the airport. Everything changed after 9/11, right? I lost 2 of them because I had them hanging from my keychain. I was just, oh, God, not again. Anyway, they realized they were in a lot of trouble because this was a product that people took, held in their pocket or put in their shaving kit, that sort of thing, took on planes with them. And so they pivoted. And now, what does Simon say? 35% of their revenue is from those Swiss Army knives. 65%, it's gone from 80 to 35%. 65% is, and you've seen that distinctive Swiss Army logo around. So it's backpacks, it's probably shaving kits, it's colognes and perfumes and stuff like that. They, if you look at the core of their brand, if I look at that knife, I can see a connection between that and a backpack, for example. I mean, that is a legitimate thing. And other little, sort of doodads and shaving guy kind of stuff. And, even the cologne is not too far out, because I think they have a strong, there's a strong brand around Swiss Army as a whole in terms of it being, kind of neat and tidy and a little bit upscale and handy and that sort of thing. And I think it lends itself well to the other things that they did. So that's pretty incredible. I mean, 9/11 was obviously, I think the pandemic now, most of us agree is a bigger deal, but 9/11 was a really, really big deal that threatened to kill them. Another one, and this really fascinates me, is YouTube. I had no idea, I did some research, and when they started in 2005, they were a dating service.
What?
They were a dating service. The idea behind YouTube, the original idea was that people shot video of themselves, talking about, who their ideal partner would be, who their partner of their dreams would be. And you would post that on YouTube, and then other people would look at it, and then they would connect. It just didn't work for whatever reason. And they got into, obviously, one of the most successful business models of all time, right there.
Wow.
I do love that you can start with one idea, realize it's not quite the right fit, make some changes, make some pivots, and then end up getting huge in a completely different direction.
Mhm.
Now, YouTube, I mean, YouTube was a typical startup pivot. Like, we're doing this thing, and then now how do we use our technology, and what are we going to go to? Which I love that. They went, well, okay, great, we're going to do this. I love the Victorinox example, because when you talk about colognes and stuff, what you're talking about to me, that's that strong brand. That's the value of a brand. They're able to go further than just, you are a person that I buy this commodity piece, and if you don't sell it, I'm going to buy it from somebody else, and I don't care. I literally do not care whether you sell me the knife or somebody else sells me the knife. Right?
Brand,
in this case, yeah.
The brand is immensely important in the perfume and cologne space. Absolutely. The way it looks, the way it sounds, where does it come from, who's the maker, all that kind of stuff. Definitely. Nice. You're very much buying the brand. The scent is important, obviously. The brand is super important.
Nice. All right, Andris, once again, thank you so much for coming.
That's my pleasure. Time flies.
This is so good. I know. So that's it. That's it for the show.
Okay.
Andris, you had a thought?
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Arthur, I heard you say something almost.
So I was just noticing, and maybe not to get into today, but maybe could lead into perhaps a future episode. I don't know. But some thoughts here on Forbes' roundup of famous brands that have pivoted. And so some shout outs to PayPal, Starbucks, Nintendo, Instagram, and Pinterest. Maybe those are worth diving into deeper in the future.
Andris, you're just going to keep coming.
Sure.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem with being likable, is we just keep wanting you to come back.
You are super
I'd be happy
likable.
to dive into it.
That's so good. Thank you. So just before we end, Maggie's asking, I totally agree. Can you recap your 4-part brand foundation for us?
Well, I'll even hold up the book again. It's in Attract, Power Up Your One of a Kind Personal Brand, and it consists of the core purpose statement. So why we exist, or why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. Your position being how we are different. And you can express that in the form of a tagline. I would encourage you to do that. A catchy kind of tagline, sort of like a just do it. Then there are character traits. Character I define as our voice, how we act and look. So are we funny? Are we serious? Are we whatever? These kinds of considerations. And fourth is reasons to believe. What are the reasons to believe that we are able to carry these other 3 elements off in our brand? So you can go through the exercise in the book if you want. It's on Amazon, and it's a do-it-yourself.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy.
It's a fantastic book. I can testify to that. Really, really thoroughly enjoy Andris, your writing. I've been a fan for quite some time.
Feeling is mutual. Thank you so much, Brent.
You're very welcome. All right.
Thank you,
so
Arthur.
We're going to link to the book in the show notes.
I was going to say, Brent, we get employee copies, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's
probably already there.
We do. I do have it, but no problem. Arthur, you want to buy it? You have to buy it from Amazon. I want Andris to get the points so he can get higher up, but you've got the expense card.
Get the
or just work with Carolyn and ship it to yourself.
Throw on a 5-star review.
This is awesome. Please.
Only throw in a 5-star. Seriously, only throw in the 5-star review if you believe it. Right, Andris?
Yeah, I don't feel like I need BS. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And you've got my 5-star review. That was easy for me. Yeah. But yeah. Okay.
So last thing, David Blackmore voted that Kill the Guru is a great name, so that is officially 2-1.
There we go. Double.
It's 101 to 1. Let's just be clear.
Yeah, okay? That's right. Thank you.
All right. That's how much you're worth, Andris. 100.
Thank
you. Let's wrap it.
You've tuned in to COVID Marketing with Brent Kobayashi and Arthur Tutt, the show to support small business not just to survive, but to thrive.
Thank you once again for joining us on this show, on this fine Friday. So on Monday's show, we're going to be continuing our lead generation series, and we'll be taking you and walking you through the back end of Facebook Business Manager to set up our own Kobayashi Zeitguys lead gen campaign for our newsletter. So if you want to set up your own campaign, or you just love us and want to sign up for our marketing newsletter, don't miss it. It's going to be live. It's going to be deep. We're going to dig into it because we want you to be successful. So we don't want you to just listen to us talk about great marketing ideas. We want you to be able to actually do those great marketing ideas. Thank you so much again for joining us, Andris. Arthur, awesome,
Pleasure.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Maggie, again, you're so awesome.
Thank you, Maggie.
Kinga, Richard, David Blackmore. I don't know if I'm missing anybody else. Thank you so much for joining us. And Arthur.
Let's cut it.
You have to do the neck motion though.
We'll cut it.
Okay, one more time. Say something so the video's on you.
We'll say some words. Should we like put on the sunglasses too while we're at it? And cut it.
There you go. You got it. Cut. You can cut it now.
Cut it.
Cut it.